No.
Okay, we'll call to order the meeting of the Park Committee for Wednesday, September 14th, 2016, 5 p.m. We have with us Alderman Vanderleest, Alderman Nicholson, Alderman Weary, and myself, Dave Yannick, as well as Alderman Gaizema and Mark Stoyer, and our esteemed staff and the public. The first item on here is approval of the minutes of our meeting of August 10th, 2016. A motion by Alderman Nicholson, seconded by Alderman Vanderleest to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are adopted. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
If you could just take 3 and 4 together.
Yeah. We'll take number 3 and 4 together since they relate to the same issue. Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Weary, seconded by Alderman Vanderleest to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is adopted. First item is consideration with possible action on a request by My Brother's Keepers to host a 3K walk and night vigil from 10 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. on Saturday, October 1st at Colburn Park.
Good evening, Park Committee. Chair.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Yes, as you can see on there, My Brother's Keepers just looking to. They've reserved Colburn Park for October 1st. They just went through special event committee last week and worked out the details with the special event committee, and we're just looking for your approval for them to run. It's a very community friendly. It's a free event. They're looking to provide some bounce houses, and they have some kind of neighborhood games, kickball. Get families and community, engaged in this event. It's a 3K walk run, really whatever route they want to do around Colburn. They kind of utilize all the trails at Colburn, and then they come back and they're actually going to have a DJ, like I said, food, and then they're going to have a glow stick vigil. So it's not candles. They're not using candles in the park, but they're just going to have a way to kind of bring the community together and do something positive. So it's
Very good. Any questions? Chris, it's your district.
Oh, looks great.
She's here.
Okay. Okay, does someone like to address the
Sasha
committee?
agreed.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Did you want to address the committee on the request?
Sure.
I'll get you on right over.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for your time. Myself, Kathy, Carrie Spencer, and my brothers.
Could you give your names and addresses for the record? We have to have it.
Oh, yes, most definitely. My name is Sasha Green. You said address as well. My address is 519 Spring Street. That is in Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54301.
And my name is Kathy Beamster. I am at 464 Bader Street in Green Bay, 54302.
Thank you. Okay.
And the reason that we are here is to do a unity walk. The idea came from another girl that I work with. We're partnering with My Brother's Keeper, and the purpose of the walk is to kind of bring the community together to do something with the police, because as of right now, we've been lucky enough not to see what's going on in Milwaukee and Chicago and New Orleans happen in Green Bay. So the purpose of this walk is, like I said, to get the community together. It's going to be free to anybody and everybody that can come. We've got the backing of the Green Bay Police Department. They're going to be there. The fire department's going to be there. We've got a whole bunch of different sponsors like Associated Bank, Firehouse Subs, Broadway Automotive, just to name a few, but there's also other sponsors that we have as well. And once again, we plan to have a unity walk with glow sticks to end the celebration, but before all of that starts, we're going to have a walk that's going to start at about, I believe it's 3 o'clock. We're allowing about an hour for the walk. After that, we're going to have free food, bounce houses, DJs, field games, so you name it, it's going to be there. And it's going to be free to anybody that wants to come. We've been lucky enough to have Chuck E. Cheese as well as Firehouse Subs donate food to this event to help us sponsor or to provide food to the community. And
Sounds like a nice event.
So-
Are there any comments from staff or conditions on it?
Contingencies?
Okay.
Yes. All costs of the event are the responsibility of My Brother's Keeper. All proper permits and insurances being obtained. My Brother's Keeper is responsible for all security. They must adhere to all noise ordinances and regulations. No alcohol will be served at this event in the park. And final approval of the special event committee.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved by Alderman Weir, second.
Close the floor.
Oh, excuse me, we have to close the floor first. Did you have any other comments before we do that?
No.
It sounds like a great event, and I think you'll have the support of the committee, and we have to take a vote here. So first, I need a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Alderman Weary, seconded by Alderman Vanderleest to return to regular business. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Weary, seconded by Alderman Vanderleest to approve the request.
Just a quick comment.
Yeah,
Thanks,
go ahead.
Alderman Enning. I want to thank you for doing, it's nice to see positive events. It's in my district. I'll promote it as much as I can. I have a wedding that day, but I can't make it. So and I'll promote it as much as I can, and thanks for doing something positive.
Yeah,
definitely, thank
I think
you.
we'll all
Thank you.
try to promote it in among our constituents, so good luck to you.
Wonderful. And I don't know if you guys got the flyer, the information, but we bought flyers with us just in
Oh,
case
we
you guys
did.
didn't
Sure,
have
they
it.
bet.
So,
Do you want me to just give them a stack? Yeah, we have some.
Okay, all in favor of approving the request
Sheets
signify
and
by
then
saying
the
aye.
bullshit.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, second item is consideration with possible action on a request by Alderman Zimmer that the city develop an ordinance requiring that dead or dangerous trees be ordered removed from private property upon review and confirmation by the city forester. So, do you want to discuss it first? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go through a little bit of this so we're all on the same page. We just passed out a memo that our attorney put together which identifies the city's current ordinances, policies as it refers to trees. You all received also a copy of all of the municipal code in your packet, the policy and procedure, and the adjacent private property owner notification. If you refer to the memo that we did just pass out, it identifies the city's current regulations on trees on private property. The city's current regulation of trees, I'm not going to read all those to you. You can read them yourself. I'll just highlight the titles: that the trees interfere with traffic signs or street, pull trees that have communicable diseases or insect infestations, hazardous trees on private property. If you go to D, you see the city currently does not regulate trees on private property. They would only have a potential impact on private property. So trees that are on private property that only have an impact on private property are currently not covered. If a tree does not affect the right-of-way or public property, the tree only affects private property, then the city follows what they call a notification process. You receive that in your packet as well. The notification is a neighbor-to-neighbor letter, and it's sent to the adjacent property owners on a request based when there's some dispute over a tree or a shrub on their properties. The letter recommends that the individual inspect the tree and to properly maintain it. The letter emphasizes that this is a private matter between the neighbors and they should work it out together. These are private matters on private property. Over the past 20 years, our legal staff has advised us to stay out of these private party matters. Too much involvement may add additional liability to the city. Upon the request, however, our forestry crew will go out, they'll inspect the properties and the trees, they'll identify the problems, they send the notifications to the property owners. Our city attorney has revised our template for our neighbor-to-neighbor letter. The purpose of the notification, again, is to identify the property owners to each other. Sometimes they live next door, but they don't talk to each other. So that's the first step. We identify the concern or the problem. We outline it for them, tell them what they should and should not do about the situation, and we notify that action should be taken or a liability could be possible to them. The advantages are it allows the neighbors to work it out together to reach a solution, and it keeps the city out of arguing and refereeing neighbor disputes. We kind of recommended that the city continues to not regulate private property trees that only affect private property. The use of the neighbor-neighbor letter has worked pretty doggone good the last 20 years. On average, we usually get 8 to 10 of these a year throughout the whole city. The main reason is if we had to take it on, first of all, we don't have a budget. We don't have any kind of budget. That the budget would need to be created to ensure that the Parks Department has enough money to proceed with hiring contractors. Contractors are not going to work unless we pay them up front. They're not going to wait until we can pay them after we get the money that comes from a tax lien or something like that. If contractors were hired, we would still need to add money to the budget because we're still going to have someone work with the contractor to cover expenses, to coordinate the times, the dates, the special needs, roadblocks, and the supervision of the process of removing that tree. The time used to remove that tree on private property may take time away from to remove trees in the right-of-way or damaged trees on public property. It is likely that overtime pay would probably have to be used. Currently, I have 6 forestry worker tubes for 36,000 public and street trees. We have, we're on an 8 to 9 year rotation right now to get through the city. So our recommendation would be to regulate trees on private property the way that we are. If we had to, if you so desire and you want us to take a look at this, we would have to look at redoing the ordinances, and we would have to look to budget some money to pay for this process. That concludes my introduction.
Okay. Again, should we hear from Alderman Zimmer, or does the committee want to discuss it first?
Normally, the person who requests something, you let them talk first. I've never had it otherwise, but
yeah. Okay.
Unless somebody's not here.
Come on, and
we should discuss it first.
But, well, I take a little umbrage really with this recitation. I did meet with the forester, and I kind of we went through all that Dawn has said to us here. And of course, you talk about making mountains out of molehills. That's what you just heard, mountains out of molehills. Dawn says it's maybe 8, 10. I think it's potential for more than that. I have about 4 properties right now with disputes. And as you know, I go back a long way. Mr. Nennig would remember too, in the days of the first forester I worked under was Mr. Lang. And we occasionally had a problem where somebody has a dead tree. And if it's owned by a landlord, they don't care. They don't communicate the same way. And it's true, Mark has talked to me, and they send out this friendly letter, and 8, 9 times out of 10, just the fact that somebody's bringing attention to it, people do the right thing, but not always. And when it's not done, we need some mechanism to take it down. It's for the safety of our community. And, to ask people to go through a court case and try to do something in the court is, I think it's really burdensome. It's not something familiar. They should be able to call. And I'm not saying that, hey, somebody doesn't like how they trim their tree or something like that. We're talking about where you've got a dead tree or a practically dead tree. And I think we should send a letter, a friendly letter first, of course, and then remind that we do have the power to have it done. And we'd like them to, take care of it. If that takes care of it, all well and good. If it doesn't, I don't think it's a monumental problem to we don't want to impose on our staff. We hire it to have it taken down if the forester thinks it's a imminent danger to life and property of the neighbors. I mean, I was just at a, what energized me on this in the first place, 3 things have come up since then. I was there looking at properties about a different problem, and they said, by the way, those fees, and they were deader than a doornail. I mean, deader than a doornail. On 2 different properties, but it was owned by landlords. And they sometimes don't want to spend any more money than they have to. Now, of course, they'll spend more in the long run if the tree falls down and does damage to their property or somebody else's property. Then it's lawsuits and all that sort of stuff and judgments and all that. It's a much simpler way to do it. When our professionals think it's a danger, they write an order. It can be started out friendlier. We often do that in the inspection department. You know, we send letters to people. If they don't, we follow it up with, you know, tougher legislation. But I think where we need to take them down, if it amounts to 5, 10, 15 of them a year or something like that, we're not talking $1 million. And we can take it out of petty cash, City of Green Bay. But I'm not asking it to be done for free, of course. I mean, the property owner has to be, put it on the tax bill, change the ordinance or whatever, we put it on the tax bill if they don't. And once people know that, you know, they're maybe going to have a bigger bill than if they do it themselves, they'll do it. And I think we need to do something to give better action, because believe me, it provides a lot of anxiety to people when they see something, and it goes on day after day. It's something that it gnaws on them over and over when people don't do it. So I just think, you know, for the peace and tranquility of the neighborhoods, and you don't want to have things that aggravate. So sometimes somebody gets an order, but at least it's done. Sometimes things have to be done. We're not, I don't buy into this argument that, oh, it's going to be so costly for us. It's not costly, no. We can order it done, put it on the taxes. And if a little bit builds up, we're not talking a lot of money. So I think it's time that we move forward. In the past, they did do it. And it solved problems. I probably had it in 20 years. I probably had it, my first 20 years in office, it probably was maybe 10 times. But it got done. That's how it got done, because some people won't move on it. And of course, maybe there's some people that, well, you know how it is. There's some bills you just don't want to pay. There's some things you just don't want to do. Oh, when I get around to it. And of course, after it passes for a little while, it just becomes a status quo. So I just think it's something we should improve, and I think it's a fairly simple matter. That, like I say, start out with the friendly one if you want. If there isn't, then take a stronger action and say it's been deemed that this tree or is a danger to your and possibly your neighbor's property, and we're demanding that you take it down within a certain period of time, where the city will take it down and add it to your taxes. And, you know, I think that's the way you get action and get something done. When trees are really dead and they've been dead for a long time and people just don't take it down on their own, they're never going to take it down. So why risk? And it becomes a very large aggravation to their neighbors. I mean, it really upsets them. I can tell you about a couple more cases if you want. There's one where a tree is dead from the middle up. Well, is it dead, isn't it? I think it's damaged enough. But it's all on private property, so we aren't taking any action. We did send the friendly letter. Well, we got a nasty letter back from the owner, basically, saying that the neighbor had used foul language or something or whatever. And I'm not there to witness it, so I don't know, but it causes aggravation. And we need some way to resolve problems. We resolve many problems in many other ways, and I think this is something we should make this adjustment. I don't think we're at any insurance risk or anything, and we contract with somebody to take it down. If they cause some damage that they're not supposed to, that's their problem, not ours. So, but I don't think it comes to that. I think we're making mountains out of molehills, and if once in a while And if something becomes protracted, that's the way life is. But I think it'd be prudent for the city to add a simple paragraph and change whatever needs to be changed to do that.
Okay, are there other people who want to address the council on this? Mr. Stoyer.
Thank you, Chair. I know Alder Zimmer brings up some good points. I have a number of citizens that also have had these issues, you know, neighbor to neighbor type thing. I don't know if things can be done that way, if you do put it on the tax bill. I guess I was concerned about the liability issue. And like Alder Zimmer was saying, that he's had several in his district, and I don't know, you on council as well, it's happened in your area as well. I've usually tried to talk to the neighbors, but generally speaking, they won't talk to each other over this. It's very difficult, so something has to happen. So I guess the question is, first of all, I was going to ask Alder Zimmer, when was, you said this was done some years ago. Maybe Donnie, you could help me on this too. Was there a time period where something like this was done as he had stated, or has this always been a policy of the city, as you know?
Mark,
like
did we
this?
ever do that?
Probably before my time, but the Dutch elm disease days, I believe the city would send out a request for request for bids on private elm removal. That was, 35 years ago.
I don't know if that was the only case, but anyway, it is an interesting issue. It does happen. A lot of times when you go in the backyard of a house, you see a lot of these issues that happen, and you don't see it from the street. But there's a lot of on fence lines, different things like that, and that gets to be a bit of an inspection issue. And granted, Donnie, like you said, your staff is not, you don't have as many as you would need, so we understand that. And we're always under pressures with budgets as far as raising budgets. So I see both sides of this, but I will assure you that I've had a number in my district as well. And you're just hoping it kind of goes away. You just kind of hope maybe that they'll take care of it. So okay. It is food for thought.
Thank you. Could I ask our attorney, currently our ordinance gives us the right, if there's a public hazard or public issue, are there legal concerns about doing work on private property if it's not a public nuisance or public safety issue?
I would say right now that what the ordinance is set up is that if the tree is affecting the public right-of-way or public property, then we go in and we have the right to do it. So you'd have to change it. And to answer your question, other municipalities, and I've talked to Mark about this too, they have set up, and I think the best route would be to determine the tree is a public nuisance, which takes time to determine, and someone to go out there, inspect, and actually deem that it is a public nuisance. That would then involve notice to the property owner. Property owner would have the ability to appeal it. Then we're setting up a situation where we're defending whether or not this tree is dead or not dead. We have to defend that. And then they could dispute that all the way to this committee, and also could bring it to court. So depending on the issue, it could be more difficult, depending on the situation. I don't know how easy it is to determine whether or not a tree is dead or not. And there's always possible that someone can, defend it. So liability, I think if we, determine from our foresters that it is a dead and hazardous tree, we can go about and we can remove it if we follow the proper channels. But it does, I think the more and more we get involved with private matters, the more and more opportunity there is for them to defend it and, bring lawsuits, but that's just the nature of the game. So I don't think there's a problem with determining that it's a public nuisance. It's just, it's going to bring more potential for someone to bring a lawsuit against the city.
Mm-hmm. So do you think we can do that under our ordinance if there's a case that we've determined is a nuisance?
Not as the ordinance is written right now. The ordinance, the way it's written right now, it gives us the authority to regulate trees on private property, but then it goes into specifically saying that only if it's affecting the right-of-way or public property. So we need to amend it to treat it as a public nuisance, and also that could be included as a dead tree or a hazardous tree to other property, things like that. And I think one thing I would like to add, though, is I do a lot of, collection work for the law department, and I think one thing we have to think about is, are we shifting the collection from a, potential private matter to now the city being the collection matter for, these certain situations. So I think that is something to take under consideration, because it is difficult to collect on people. People usually aren't fixing a dead or hazardous tree because they don't have the funds to do it. So when the city does it, now we got to collect against them. And if it's a tax lien, sometimes we don't always get that paid, and it just remains a tax lien.
Okay, thank you. Any questions by the committee? Mr. Zimmer, did you want to say
Well,
something?
sure. First of all, I find the presentation, the arguments are specious at best. Every single ordinance in the city of Green Bay can be challenged, and inspection can be appealed all the way up to this committee and up to the city council. But how often does that happen? Not very often. So that's true on every single ordinance. So why would we single out and say, well, this would be a problematic thing? The other thing that defies logic again, if it's important that we act on it when it's threatening the public property, why would we think any differently about private property? It needs to be done. I see this as a big non-problem. Just put it into the law, and you'll see. I think it'll work very well. And hey, people have to pay their taxes, and sooner or later they sell the property or whatever it is, and it collects interest at 18%. Does the city get 6 of that or something? I don't know. It's pretty steep. I think it's actually usurious. It should. It's unconscionable that we still are in this day and age are charging 18%. But I think that's a county issue. The county added that on. But they collect the taxes for us. But again, this is because it might be hard to collect. Maybe we're not going to do something where it'll be collected very easily most of the time. I don't think that's a problem. I think we need to find a way to solve the problem.
I wonder if the letter could be made a little stronger too, to say that, not to say that the damaged tree may threaten adjoining property, but that it, in the opinion of our forester, that it does threaten. We might be able to trump up the letter a little to get.
I think it's just a simple letter. We request you to take it down, and hopefully you'll get it taken care of within a certain period of time. Please contact us if you have any problems. Otherwise, stronger action will be done up until the taking it down in the billing of the property owner for the work. That's what we do. Now, people don't clean up their lawns. I mean, my God, our inspection department goes in and cleans up properties and everything else. Well, we don't give it to them. So why would it be a problem with a few trees? I don't know. I think everything that's been said is bogus. We do these things in our inspection department all the time. Why would we want to have a tree dead or practically dead threatening somebody else's property?
Okay, Alderman Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know over my dozen years, this is probably one of the most frustrating issues for residents, is dead trees, especially large ones that affect multiple properties. They don't understand why, they might have to repaint part of their fence or be fined, or replace a board on their shed or be fined, yet a huge tree that could affect multiple properties can't be told to be taken down. So I agree that we should look at this. I'd make a motion to direct the city forester and legal department to change the process of notification and enforcement, however you need to do that, and then to amend the ordinance and then bring that back. I'm sure we can do it. It sounds like other cities do it. There's precedent. We tell people to fix the minor, smallest things, and this one's by far much more of a concern to residents, and it's very frustrating. So that's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, excuse me.
I just need some clarification here. Are you asking that the city take down these trees, or we hire contractors to take them down?
Whichever you want to do. But
Whichever
you
works.
said you were short of help, so I would think that you'd contract it out.
Okay. And then
But I mean, it's up to you. And by the way, from your remarks earlier, I'm in full support of giving you more forestry help. That department has been chopped down, chopped down. I think Mr. Dwayne helped get some of the forestry personnel back. The fact that, you know, and this is off topic here a little bit, but it was part of the discussion. The fact that we're only maintaining trees on an 8 to 9 year basis is also outrageous.
Yeah.
We need more help there. I'm in full support of it if you bring it forward. Maybe a different administration will be more helpful. I mean, I believe in taking care of our city.
I made a motion so I can answer probably.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Okay.
To answer your question,
Do you have a comment?
I think that the goal would be to inform the person who
Okay.
has the dead tree, hey, remove it,
Yep.
or it'll be
Yep.
removed. And I think most of them are gonna get removed. They're just, there's no push right now, so they don't get it done. I mean, we all talk to residents who have the dead tree and, don't care.
Yeah, and that was my big concern is I wouldn't have money to pay the contractors to go and take down the trees. So we'd have to come up with a method to make that happen. Because otherwise, the contractor is not going to take down the tree unless he gets paid up front. We've already talked to them. I can tell you I've talked to other communities, Appleton, De Pere, Howard, they all do what we do. Madison is a larger department, and they have a system where they go in and they take down the tree. They charge the property owner 3 times the cost to do it. They add additional administrative fees, and they take down the trees. The inspection department follows up on it, and their finance department sends out the bills. So that's how they do it in other communities. One other point of interest in this whole scenario is, as we go through EAB, we're going to start to get a lot more requests for this type of action on private properties, because we're going to lose a lot of those trees, and we're going to have neighbors fighting over trees that are infested. And so sooner or later, we're going to have to address this whole scenario. But those are just my concerns. Will I have enough money to hire a contractor to even go to take down the tree is one of the concerns I had in the process.
I can tell you I've had a couple of cases in my district where a neighbor looks at a tree and feels that, you know, that tree ought to come down. Well, it might be some dead branches on the tree, you know, things of that sort. So you do get into those situations, but you know, if a tree is clearly dead and clearly posing a hazard to a neighboring property, you know, that's a whole different story.
Well, as I said, it's by confirmation by the city forester. In other words, if it isn't serious enough, then no action will be taken.
Yeah, there may have to be some kind of appeal process if there's a disagreement on
They could appeal it.
it. You know, that, somebody feels that the tree doesn't need to come down and can.
I mean, Don, do we budget? Well, maybe you're the wrong person to ask because it's inspection, but when they go and sometimes it's the city. I don't know. Do we do all our own work when for inspection if we go to a property and bundle up everything and throw it in the back of a truck? And I know they get sent a bill, and so they're one way or another they got to pay. But I mean, put a little something in the budget. A budget is just your best estimate anyway. So if we got to put 20,000 or 30,000 or whatever you think, you might need more. You might find that more people will be calling. But
Okay, is there further
let's address
discussion?
the problem.
Does the committee have any questions or further discussion? Did you have something, Mr. Stewart?
Just one other point. Thank you, Chair. I've had a couple neighborhood issues where one neighbor said, this tree is worth this much, and somebody came back and said it's not worth that much. So it's like a he said, she said kind of thing. So sometimes it's difficult to try to get that right answer. You know, you can look at a tree, I can look at a tree and say, oh, it looks dead, but maybe it's just temporarily out of commission. So those are things that I think have to be studied. You have to look at all of that. So.
Mark, did you have some comments or thoughts?
Well, there's a lot of issues here. I mean, but the cities that I've studied, the successful ones, it's a notification process, a fining process that makes it hurt. You know, $500 a day in until the tree comes down, and then whatever the contracted cost is, triple it. So pay the contractor $1,000 or pay the city $3,000. That's your choice. And then, of course, it's the lien process if for non-collection.
How many
ones
would
that-
you?
They make it hurt.
How many do you see in a year right now?
Well, the only tree I know of is Mr. Burgess on 12th Street. That's the only one out there that I know of.
Well, go over to 521 and 525 Howard Street. Let me see, where's the other one? I went up to your office and there were 4 different properties, and I know you're so darn busy, I just said whenever you can get to it. And, you know, maybe you've forgotten it, but there's also one over on 7th Street. But believe me, it's going to be more than just these 4. I mean, I think we have to address it sooner or later.
Okay. So we're basically referring it to our staff to draft an ordinance and to bring some kind of proposal forward. Is that the motion? Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. So we'll see that.
Bring back what you think is the best route.
We'll see it on a future agenda and discuss it further. Okay? The next item, and we're going to be talking about number 3 and number 4 together here. It's number 3 is consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Zima that the city considers placing a sidewalk through Seymour Park to connect South Oakland Avenue that is divided by the park using neighborhood enhancement for regular city fees. And then number 4 is consideration of possible action on the reallocation of $16,000 in park community development block grant funding for the purpose of number 3. So.
Okay.
Okay.
In item 3, Alderman Zima put a request in for a sidewalk in Seymour Park. If you just refer to the map that we passed out, you can see the location of where we'd like that sidewalk to go. It was referred to the park committee because it is park property. It originally started at INS and then ended up in parks. The anticipated construction cost should be about $8,000. Staff would recommend approving this request using community development funds to pay for it. That brings us to item 4. In 2014, the Parks Department was awarded community development block grant funding to replace and downsize the parking lot at Seymour Park. Shortly after the funding was appropriated, it was noticed that the plat map showed a discrepancy in the ownership of portions of the property where the existing parking lot now exists. Since then, our law department has been working with that property owner to resolve the issue. To the date, that resolution has not been achieved. The planning department was recently noticed by the grant provider that too much time has passed and the money needs to be spent now. So what we are proposing is that since the property issue has yet to be resolved, the staff needs to look at other ways to spend that money. So staff would recommend using $8,000 of that funding to put in this walk that we just talked at item 3 at Seymour Park, along with $6,500 to add playground equipment to Seymour Park to replace the teeter and the spring rider that had to be taken out. The remaining $1,500, we would like to replace an old bubbler with a new ADA accessible bubbler in the park for $1,500. So we're asking a contractor would help us with the bubblers, but our park crews would be responsible for putting the playground equipment in it. So what we'd like to do is allocate the dollars that we had for that parking lot and put them into those projects at Seymour Park that I just specified for item 4.
Motion to approve 3 and 4.
Okay, any
Sounds
discussion?
good to me.
Sounds good, okay. Would it be done next year, or what would the schedule be then?
Next week.
We're hoping that the sidewalk will be able to go in this year yet, but we'll have to get approval from Public Works that we can change order into their sidewalk contract. If that's not possible, then we'll make it a project next year. The playground equipment and the bubbler should be able to be installed this year, depending on how long it takes to get the equipment after the order's placed.
Okay.
So I would like 2 motions, please. One for item 3, to approve the request by Alderman Zima that the city place a sidewalk at Seymour Park to connect South Oakland Avenue that is divided by the park using community development funding, and to approve reallocation of the $16,000 in park development block grant to be used to install a new sidewalk, to install, what did I just say, the sidewalk, the bubbler, and the playground equipment.
Okay, I think that's a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify by both motions. Do you want to second?
Sure.
Okay, we'll take a vote to approve both motions. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I take care of that?
Just a sideline, like over at Seymour Park, we're going to be talking about sewers and things like that. There is another sidewalk in Seymour Park that goes along the railroad line there, and that's underwater most of the time. And part of it, there's a really serious storm sewer problem in that area. And, I had a constituent that into the basement, the water coming right over the, windowsills backed up, he's got photos of it and everything else, but it's so bad, our sidewalk, you can't even use it because it's underwater.
I think that is one of the areas where the storm water issues are being studied
So
right now.
that's just a pitch for when we start using that excess packer tax, when we get some of that over to the sewer problems.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we'll move on to number 5, consideration with possible action on a resolution in support of the grant application for the 2016 to 2017 Wisconsin RPC's Wisconsin DNR EAB Impact Mitigation Grant.
At our August 10th Park Committee, we brought that request for that grant application to approve for EAB. The grant is for $20,000, and we propose matching $5,000 with in-kind services. What we forgot to do is when we went back and looked at the grant application process, it was noticed that a resolution also had to be approved. So we're just asking you to approve a resolution.
Right, there is a resolution in our packet, and what we do is forward that to the council for approval next week.
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Weary, seconded by Alderman Vanderleest to approve the resolution and forward it to the council. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Take care of that. Number 6, consideration with possible action on the staff recommendation to increase the metropolitan boat launch fees. All right?
Please.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Great, how are you guys doing?
Good. Can you give us a little background? When were they last increased and what is proposed?
Well, basically, the city of Green Bay, Brown County, and the city of De Pere all kind of go together on the boat launch on these annual passes, and we're recommending a fee increase from $30 to $35 for the 2017 season. With that being said, we'd also recommend that passes for seniors remain at the current $30 rate. Currently, these 3 entities split the revenue based on usage. Brown County gets 44.6%, the city of Green Bay gets 30%, and the city of De Pere gets 25.4% of the revenue. So in 2015, our share was nearly $17,000. With this increase, based on 2015 numbers, it'd be roughly about another $3,000 in revenue, which all this revenue goes to help maintain the Metro Boat Launch. The last price increase was from $20 to $30, and that occurred in 2000. So it's been 16 years now since we've had a fee increase. We feel that based on what other communities are charging and the number of launches we have and the quality of launches we have in the county, that this is more than a fair price raise at this time. So this would obviously be contingent on the committee here approving it, and then also De Pere and county boards respectively.
Okay. Any discussion?
Does that include the one over on by Howard, by the Duck Creek there?
Yeah, anything. It's not for the individual launches. It's just for the annual pass.
The annual pass.
So the daily passes would stay the same at $5.
Okay, do we need to do a resolution on this one, or is it just a motion?
Just a motion.
Okay. So I'd ask for a motion to
So
approve
moved.
the increases recommended. We have a motion by Alderman Nicholson, seconded by Alderman Weary, to approve the recommendation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 7, consideration with possible action on a request by the Planning Department that the Redevelopment Authority donates parcel 8-279, 313 St. George Street to the City of Green Bay for the expansion of the East River Trail. This was discussed at the Redevelopment Authority yesterday. Planning Commission. Redevelopment, yesterday. And they recommended approval.
Did they recommend donating?
Recommend donating that parcel to the Park Department.
Okay, so 7 months ago, the RDA purchased several properties from the county that were delinquent in taxes. Parcel 8-279 is located on the south end of St. George Street, where the road meets the East River. The RDA paid $500 for this property and is willing to donate it to the city. And yesterday, they approved that donation to the city. The Parks Department is interested in it because we would like to use it as green space for the future trail expansion. And that would be it.
Yeah, seems to make sense. Any questions?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Weir, second by Alderman Van Leest to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good.
Almost there.
Nice when you can get one for nothing. Okay.
Couple lots left.
Okay, number 8, consideration of possible action on a request by Ducks Unlimited and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to apply for grants to install a wetland waterfowl nesting habitat area at Ken Muir's natural areas. Who wants to speak on that?
I'm going to have the end.
Okay.
Just pass it out.
So Ducks Unlimited and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Association approached the Parks Department with the desire to construct a wetland bird habitat nesting area at the Ken Muir's natural area. I passed out a map which kind of highlights the area that we're talking about and specifically what they're proposing to do. And then I handed out a packet of information to you, which is the actual proposal, written proposal by Ducks Unlimited. There's currently a wetland area which is heavily vegetated with Phragmites, and it's surrounded with a dike with a gravel walking trail along the top of the dike, and you can see that in the aerial photo. Ken Muir's natural area offers an ideal site for waterfowl and fish habitat enhancement. Ducks Unlimited has completed several similar projects at the nearby Barkhausen Waterfowl Preserve and the Sensiba unit of the Green Bay West Shores Wildlife Area. Ken Muir's is located directly adjacent to the bay and contains the existing dike system, and once it's rehabilitated, it will allow for improved water level management. This proposal will rehab about 2,400 lineal feet of dike and install a water level control structure to manage the area. So basically they'll pump in water when we need it wet, and they'll let the water out into the bay when we want it drier. So we'll provide ideal habitat for nesting times throughout the years. All of the trees would be removed along the dike and placed into the bay for pike spawning habitat. And possible viewing decks and improvements to the parking lot could also be incorporated into this project. If you recall, Phragmites removal has already been done out there through the Bay Lakes Regional Plan Commission grant. That was sprayed last week. They'll spray it again next year. It's estimated that this project will cost approximately $233,000 to construct this wetland habitat area. Ducks Unlimited is proposing to fund all of the construction costs through various grant opportunities. We've already submitted a grant application through the National Fish and Wildlife through their Sustain Our Great Lakes program. This is a 50-50 grant that requires a match. Typically, these grants and projects would be approved by City Council and the Park Committee prior to submitting the application. In this case, Ducks Unlimited thought that they had the appropriate city approvals when they applied. They did not. That's why they're here now to talk about it. The Ken Ewers project is only one of the projects highlighted in their grant application. In the application, they also requested funding to work on other adjacent communities to test vegetation, establishment techniques in several other wetlands. The grant application that was submitted requested $396,788 with matching funds of $400,000 to complete all of the projects, which Ken Ewers is one of them. If the project is not approved by Park Committee and City Council, they'll amend their grant application and remove Ken Ewers from the scope of the work of the grant. If this project is approved, Ducks Unlimited will apply for a second grant to fund the required match. The second grant they'd like to apply for is an RDA grant, and they would submit it in mid-September. This funding is through the Fox River Natural Resource Damage Assessment, and is part of the Fox River cleanup money that's available. Again, they would request approximately $400,000 for this second grant. Once this project is installed, though, there will be maintenance expenses that the Park Committee would incur. It'll take about 40 to 80 hours of staff time per year to monitor, flood, drain, and mow the dike occasionally. This would also include wildlife sanctuary staff time to monitor the site and determine the appropriate times to flood and drain the area. So wildlife sanctuary staff would monitor it, and then park staff would be responsible to actually do the flooding and the draining. In addition, we would need about $2,000 per year in gas to operate the pump that would be used to fill the wetland. Ducks Unlimited has agreed to fund the cost of the gas on a yearly basis, so if this is approved, we would work out some agreement with them so that they would continue to fund that. This proposal was reviewed with the Department of Public Works, and they are supportive of this project. And if this project is approved, we would let you know if the grants are awarded and keep you notified of progress on this. That's the quick summary. Somebody from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is here to answer questions if you have any.
Yeah, I would just ask before we open it up, can our staff handle the responsibilities that are being expected?
Yes.
Okay. Looks like a good project. Do we want to open up the floor and hear from Mr. Price?
As it's presented, it's pretty thorough, and it looks like a good idea, so I'm fine with it. I don't have any questions.
Does anybody need to open the floor to ask questions? Okay. Looks like a great project and big benefit to the city. Very happy that our park is included in it. So can we have a motion by the committee to approve?
To approve.
Do we have some?
Parks and Public Works review and approval of the final design and engineering documents, all proper permits being obtained, all costs for engineering and construction are the responsibility of Ducks Unlimited. Ducks Unlimited will be responsible for the annual gas cost for the pump.
Okay. That was the motion.
To approve with those stipulations.
And the second, Alderman Vanderleest, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we got you approved. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Thank you.
Looks like a great project, and keep us posted on how you're doing with it.
Right. You get those viewing decks in, that would be nice.
Yeah, very nice project. Okay. That brings us down to the director's report, number 9.
Okay, we received and paid the bill to repair the Zip and Tip and train cars. As you know, due to the incident, we had to shift those cars to Philadelphia. The cost was $45,924. So I wanted to report that out because, you know, I didn't have a chance to bring it to you because of the incident.
That came out of the Bay Beach Fund? Right?
Bay Beach Fund, correct. At our July 13th, 2016 Park Committee, this committee approved a contract for the new asphalt walkway at Sullivan Park for $25,054. You also approved to authorize any contingencies work that we had necessary to, that was attached to the quote summary. There were some for like erosion control, topsoil, gravel or any poor soil conditions that needed to be taken care of. No major construction issues surfaced, with the exception of the contractor needing to have a better topsoil. So we had to add $2,506 to the project, which made that project $27,560. Treatments for our EAB are now completed for this year. We treated over 1,750 trees. Arnie Wolf, the grading and seeding of the last 2 soccer fields is finally completed. That has been a long process for us. NWTC has agreed to donate their services to install the masonry block walls as a student training project. They will work 1 day a week for the next 3 weeks to help build the concession stand at Arnie Wolf. The 72 players last weekend participated in our pickleball Midwest tournament. There are some really good pickleball players there. And the Walk for Wildlife is this Saturday at the Wildlife Sanctuary. This year, our featured animals are bats. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Good report. I just had a question. Colburn, how are the plans coming?
Plans are going well. We should have the final plans and specifications from the engineer within the next week. And then at that point, we do have to review them one more time, make sure that they're 100% complete, and they'll make any necessary changes that they need to. In addition, it'll take some time for Public Works to put together the front-end specifications. So we would anticipate this going out to bid probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks, but
2 to 3 weeks.
we'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, we're close.
We're close, good.
Yep.
Great job, keep it up.
A couple other things to just inform the committee about. One is that we are back on our 2-meeting-a-month schedule. So if you look in your books at the top page, you'll see that our next meeting is 2 weeks from today, which is September 28th.
Get to see you more.
Okay, yeah, you bet. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that there's been some discussion about the stadium, excess stadium money, and whether, under the motions that were made at the council meeting, whether park projects are considered economic development or infrastructure. And Alderperson Dorff put in a communication to have this discussed at the council meeting next week. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Just that I heard from Chris Teskey today, and she has to get permission from the mayor because he sets that agenda, and she had not heard back from him yet. So I'm just waiting to see if that gets on the agenda. Hope it does.
Okay.
Celestine will help. Mind them.
Yeah, okay. So just to fill everybody in on that, and I'm not sure what the intention was of the council as a whole, so whether park projects should be under economic development or under infrastructure. Proposals are due next Friday.
That's correct, September 23rd at 4 o'clock.
The 23rd, so there's not a whole lot of time left, but we can discuss that at council next week if it gets on the agenda.
Perfect.
Okay, anything else? Okay, if not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify. Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Vanderlee, seconded by Alderman Weary to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.